Recognition, power, and influence is your birthright, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 245. In today's episode, I'm interviewing one of my phenomenal clients, Brittney Horn. And since this interview has been recorded, I am proud to say that she has welcomed a beautiful daughter into this world and our latest corporate badass. Congratulations, Brittney. In today's interview, she talks about how she navigated maternity leave, how she has shown up as a powerful executive leader, one who is known for her powerful executive presence, and how she navigates an industry that is constantly changing and shifting direction. It's a fantastic conversation. You're going to enjoy every minute of it, so let's get started. Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. I'm very excited about my guest today. I love my clients. You know that I do. I hope you can feel it. But this particular succession of clients that I have had on my podcast is really powerful in terms of being able to see the shift and the change and the impact that one person can have on the leadership table. So thank you, Brittney. Thank you so much for being on here.
It's good to be here. Be a part of it.
Let me do a formal introduction of Brittney, and then we'll just dive into today's conversation. Brittney Horn is an accomplished leader and sales director of America's Automotive at onsemi, known for her executive presence and people-first leadership. She is passionate about crafting unique cross-functional solutions, negotiations, and being an amazing mom for her 2, soon-to-be 3 children. So the first question I want to ask you is just right out of the gate, what do you feel like are some of your secrets to success?
I would say secrets to success, I'll give, since we already brought up Sherry, I'll kind of start there. But one of the things that I really learned from Sherry early in my career is she was one of the first real role models and mentors I had as true people-first leadership, where I saw Sherry continuously almost sacrifice her own interests in the interests of developing her team. And that carries a lot of weight. And I saw kind of the good karma, if you will, created by that. And when you do great things for the right reasons and you help promote, challenge, and motivate people, that the results you can achieve are really impressive. And it always comes full circle. It always comes back. Mm-hmm. So I would say that was one. Probably the other 2 areas that I think are secrets that I've learned along the way is to remove fear. Like, fear is so powerful and it will prevent you from doing things. And sometimes it's healthy. Like, you should be a little scared. I think I might be quoting my current CEO at this point, but he said, if you don't make a decision that keeps you awake at least a couple nights, you're not taking big enough of a risk. When you make a decision, you shouldn't make it out of fear. So like, I'm afraid this is going to happen, so I'm going to safeguard and do this. But instead you go, I think this is the right thing I should go do, and it's scary, but it feels like the right thing to do. Try it.
Yeah.
You can make a mistake. You can change. You can go back and revisit and say, I was wrong. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
But kind of letting go of that fear, I think, really helps you move forward faster. The other thing that was really pivotal for me in my career is starting to assume that everybody and everyone has positive intent. So rather than trying to assume where people are coming from in a negotiation or a problem that you're trying to solve, is go, you know what? I assume they're trying to solve this problem too, and they're coming from their perspective. They're trying to get to the same goal. There's never any negative or ill will as to why somebody's taking a course of action. I just don't understand why they're coming from that angle yet. But I assume you got a good reason for doing so. So.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh. I was thinking when you were talking about fear, Liz Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, she has a quote that's so good about, I don't mind fear. Fear can creep up every now and then, but it doesn't drive the bus. And I literally tell fear to go in the back of the bus, sit in the back of the bus. You're welcome to stay on the bus, but you're not driving the bus. And I think that's kind of telling to your example, which is like, welcome it. It's there. It actually shows you that you're pushing in a direction that matters. If it's scary, then it probably is going to make a difference one way or the other. But don't let it drive the bus. And I think that's super smart. Well, I also wanted to bring you on here because of something that really stood out in your stakeholder interviews. And I was super proud of you, but I also wanted to unpack it a little bit and see why that was. Like, what were you doing? And both of the leaders who I interviewed to talk about your leadership strengths commented that your executive presence was one of your strongest attributes. Tell me more. What is that, Brittney? What are you doing that is so great? Like, how did you cultivate this executive presence, this elusive executive presence that everybody wishes they had, but not everybody is able to obtain it? So I want to unpack that a little bit.
I think my style is pretty transparent. In my profession, I have the privilege of getting the chance to frequently work with executives. We do some pretty large contract negotiations. And as I've had more exposure to executives, I would say for me, it becomes a little bit simple that realistically, I trust executives are making the best decisions with the information they have. And as an executive, generally, they're pretty short on time. So, kind of blunt, transparent communication, that's very simple. And then getting backing facts and informations. And no real emotion tied to it, right? Because, of course, you have your picture and you think, I think we should go here, but that may be the wrong direction because they might know of 3 other factors you don't. So I think what's helped me be successful in communications with executives is trying to make really complex, big things as simple as possible. Like, what do they really need to know? So I would say that, even if I'm writing like an executive email, I'll write it and it starts, 3 paragraphs. And then every single thing I go, is that really absolutely crucial for them to know? No, that really doesn't change why I've made my decision. And it's not particularly relevant. If they want to know, I'll address it. But kind of as minimal information as possible. Generally, I'll say if it can't fit on like one slide and just a few bullets, it's too much.
This is genius. Genius.
And I think the last thing was kind of the fear piece again. It can be kind of scary. You're like, these people make all the decisions. But generally, they just want the same thing as everyone else. They just want to be able to make an educated decision. Just giving them like, here are the key facts. Here's from what we see it in our perspective. We would recommend this course of action because of A, B, and C. Here are a couple backing data points as to why we got here. Please let me know if you'd like to have a meeting to discuss. As simple as possible. And removing the fear piece and kind of being okay with it, that like, this is a concise summary of why I came where I am. Here are the backing information. And then I trust that they'll make the right decision with other factors they have at play.
Right. And, I think that this idea of assuming best intent, it also has the other side where you assume that they want to say yes. Here's the thing. They want to say yes. We don't know that they will. Like you said, they're going to make the best decision for them. But if we can assume that they want to say yes, that there's best intent, that I was invited to propose this for a reason, that there's something to this that is of value to them, when we work and operate from that place, then we can trust our conciseness. We don't have to explain it in 3, 5, 6 paragraphs. We can trust that if they want to know more, they will ask more questions. And then we can also trust ourselves to make that proposal. But it comes from that basic assumption that, these are human beings making decisions and they want things at the company to go well. So if what I'm offering to them is part of that conversation, then hey, that's great. Do you think that executive presence is actually something that you did on purpose? Like, were you kind of naturally good at it? Is it something that you had to, at some point in your career, you're like, I'd like to get more executive presence?
I would say, I think I've always been drawn to those types of decisions. Like even from very in my career, one of my first jobs, I was at a startup company, and I watched people make decisions based upon their silo. I was like, oh, that's a brilliant engineering decision. I agree with you. But if I look at manufacturability, that actually wasn't a good choice. Yeah, that's really cool. Like the customer would love that, but we literally can't make it. It would be too expensive. A purchasing decision, like, yeah, you think you just saved a whole bunch of money because you got another vendor or whatever, but you didn't realize now we have to redo our PD testing. So I've always found people always make the best decisions with information they have. So kind of at the executive level, why I'm probably most passionate about it is balancing all those factors and being able to give a complete picture of, hey, here are some of the trade-offs, and here's the things we should be aware of as we make this decision. We're going to need to balance the trade-offs between these couple different areas of the company to make sure we're making the best decision for everyone holistically. And I would just say, like, I've always found those conversations the most exciting to be able to impact things at that level.
Yeah.
Because we're all trying to do the right thing, but sometimes we just don't have all the information, and usually the executives do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And they know, even if you don't say it, they know what it's going to impact, and they're sort of thinking and putting those pieces together. So then for you to be able to spell that out, even just in 2 to 3 sentences, not 5 paragraphs, it shows them that you get it. And I think a lot of executive presence is showing the leadership that you get it, that you can be in the room with them, that you understand how they think. One of the other factors as a result, I know for you in having executive presence and cultivating this is that your leadership trusts to put you in front of anyone. And a lot of times we want to have a seat at the table. We want to be more included. We think it's just about exposure, but part of the reason that we're not getting the exposure is because that leader doesn't know what we're going to do once we get in the room. And so it's on them. And I know this is with your team as well. Like you have to think about that. You're like, I mean, because you're a people first leader. I'm sure you'd love to put everybody in front of the executive team, and not everybody's going to work out. And so we have opinions and assumptions. And when we can start to really own our communication strategies and how we show up with the executive team, then we're going to get more opportunities. And the other thing you do really well is you ask for opportunities as well. Let's actually talk about that, like advocating for yourself. Have you had to grow in that area too, to be able to speak up and sort of say what I want?
Oh, absolutely. I would say I used to always subscribe to the like, oh, like I have to earn it. Like they'll invite me when I should be invited. But then I've learned that shockingly, people are mind readers.
I know, right? Isn't that amazing?
Because I've even found myself as I've now kind of transitioned into a manager and a leader is I'm like, I had no idea you were interested in that. I would have absolutely recommended that you be part of that team or part, in that meeting. I didn't know you had interest. So, being able to specifically call out like, hey, I'm really interested in this topic. I spend a lot of time looking at it, and I would really like to be in that meeting if possible. Right. I just want to, I just want to be there. Or if not, can you let me know how it went? Like, I'm really curious to hear what discussions went on and why was that decision made?
Yeah.
So I think you do have to ask for it and assume that, people aren't mind readers. They're not going to just guess that you're interested or you want that. And sometimes the answer is going to be no, but the answer is definitely no if you don't ask.
Right. Exactly. And I think we don't actually believe that it's definitely no. That comes from that place of like, I will be asked if they want me there. And it's just not. I had a coach tell me one time that women really enjoy being invited. Like they like to have the invitation. We like that. That's like part of our identity. And she's like, if you could just let go of that, you'll do a lot better in life. It's like, yeah, we can enjoy being invited. That's great. But the other thing that I've noticed is that even as my clients have advocated for themselves directly, and then they get invited as a result, it still feels just as good. You're like, no, I earned that. And now I have that voice. Now I'm in that meeting. Now I am presenting to executives. And so you have earned that, knowing that they can tell you no, and they will. They won't invite you if they don't think you're ready or whatever. So I think that's really smart. Another thing we got going on is we are moments away from third baby, as you have put in your bio, which I love because when this podcast comes out, that baby will be in this world, which is super cool. I'm like this. I just love it. I just goosebumps and stuff. I do know that you've been working on a plan and been very open and very proactive about not only the leave itself, but just like the success of the organization and the success of your career in theory. Like that's the hope. And in my opinion, that is one, all that we can do. We can't change things if things change, but super recreatable and very, very much within your control. So I would love to hear a little bit more from you about how you have thought about maternity leave. And as this, I know that you have taken other maternity leaves in the past, but that this one is a little bit different. And so I wanted to hear from you what you've been doing or thinking about in that way.
This one is a little different. So my first maternity leave with my first two children, I actually took a step back. So at the time I was traveling pretty extensively, and so did my husband. And so when I was expecting my first, I looked, and kind of, you do your spreadsheets and you think about all your decisions. And I was like, even if they had a daycare where I could drop my baby off for 6 weeks at a time, I don't think I'm quite interested in that. That's not the experience I want to have.
Yeah.
So I actually retired. I left the working world for 2.5 years to be a stay-at-home mom. And then I found a really supportive company that was great at supporting me come back. So I came back to work when my second was 13 weeks, I think. And it was a phenomenal experience. And part of it was also I realized the preconceived notions I had placed on myself that I assumed it had to be done a certain way. And I was shocked, luckily the silver lining of COVID that I could do some things remote. And I was, very surprised by what we were able to accomplish. I mean, I was like, just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. And sometimes doing things different is brilliant. So we had some fantastic results and I did it, primarily remote during COVID. And I was like, oh, I guess you can do sales, Zoom meetings and Teams
right.
meetings. And so I kind of shifted that expectation. But I will say this maternity leave is a little different because I've never, left and known I was coming back.
Yeah.
A little different. And it's a little bit more uncomfortable, to be completely honest. It's been a challenge for me. Any challenge I face, kind of think of two things. One, kind of extreme accountability that I am still in charge. Right? Like, well, I just haven't planned it out yet. And I haven't thought of how this is a really good thing. Sometimes challenges are a gift, right? So there's a lot of things to be learned from this. So I'm going to figure out what those are. And that change is inevitable. So rather than being fearful of the change, it's like, well, no matter what, if I was on maternity leave or not, I can pretty much guarantee you in the next 3 to 6 months, something's going to be different at my company or my work because that's just kind of how life goes. So instead, I try to take a really proactive approach of, kind of the long-term strategy. Like, what does the team really need? How do I set them up for success? What are the most important things I can do in the next, 6 months? By the time I told my boss, what can I do so that everyone's ready, that I feel like I've accomplished what I need to, and that there's a good plan in place for while I'm gone, and a good plan in place for me to be able to pick up quickly when I get back, right? So some of those things looked like aligning with peer managers that are going to help cover my team and make sure that we have alignment and kind of how we're tracking and our level of accountability of our team. So that way it's not a huge shift for my team as they're working with some different leaders. And I know how the structure works. So when I come back, it should be a much more seamless transition. So for me, it was just kind of proactivity. And then again, letting go of some of the fear piece of going like, yeah, it's probably going to be different, but it'll be okay. And there's probably some gifts, right? Getting some different management styles, getting the benefits and inputs of the team is good. So,
yeah. So through the coaching experience, what do you feel like have been some of the gifts and learnings that you've taken away over the past 6 months? And how have you grown or maybe even surprised yourself?
The thing that is so brilliant about coaching, and Stacy, you and, specific, I would say is it is so easy to get caught up in our own world and our own paradigms of how we see our organization, our challenges, our self-inflicted challenges where, we feel this way and maybe that's not actually the case. And what I think is really useful is having, an objective third party that can not give you the answers, but help you find your own. Challenge the questions of, like, well, what's really the problem? Like, okay, so why is that bad? Like, oh, is that really happening? Like, what makes you think that that's actually happening? And then you're like, oh, is it? So I think it's enlightening to shift, like I said, those mindsets and then focus on the specific things that you can do to change it. And sometimes those aren't big things. Like, here's a challenge or a thought or maybe an individual you're struggling with. I'll say one of my personal struggles or the things that has helped me the most in coaching is I kind of treat everybody, like I start with positive intent, but my team's my family. And I don't like, striking that balance of challenging your family, right? To have the tough conversations and what things are worth changing. Because I'm a huge advocate of, I believe that each individual has a gift and a skill set, and every skill set has value. You just have to find the right way to use it. So when it comes to navigating corporate objectives or goals and how I leverage a skill set and make sure we're still hitting our corporate objectives mostly it's a way to focus on the results, not how it's done. So how do you work with team members to accelerate where they're exceptional to hit corporate objectives? Like, well, could we use your strength in this way? Rather than saying, oh, like, this is hard for that individual or they don't, or myself personally, I have my own weaknesses as well. Rather than focusing on all the areas of weakness, how can we pivot towards a strength? Or how could you ask for help in those areas to achieve the goal? Maybe we just look at it differently.
Yeah, I can see that. I love that. And I think also from a coaching perspective, being able to have that different look, that different lens, because like you said, I do believe like the work that we're doing together is helping you be a more effective executive leader, helping you discern. And so as I help you discern in the day-to-day what you're thinking, what you believe, why is that true, questioning the paradigms, then you can do that for your team and the decisions that you're making at work too. It's so good. In terms of accomplishments, do you have any stories or anything that you'd be willing to share? Any proud accomplishments that you have had either in your career, or maybe more recently in the last year or so?
During our coaching, together, I've had a couple things that have been really, really, exciting to see kind of come to fruition. But kind of in that people first leadership day, I think we had 2 promotions on my team since we started working together. So I, was really excited to see some team members go take their next challenge, which was really, really cool. Then I actually just a couple weeks ago had one of my mentees nominate me, and I was one of the 4 recognized, women in engineering for International Women Engineering Day on LinkedIn, which was a surprise. I wasn't expecting it, and it was really cool and kind of, one of those full circle moments. And I try to tell this to mentees as well, as like, you're just as impactful as your mentors. Like, believe me, like one of the most rewarding things is to see someone go be successful. And that's something I really focused on the last year is and Stacy knows this about me, I have the default of I can fix anything, I can solve this problem.
Yeah.
And, always wanting to get involved. And instead taking a step back and saying, well, if I really want to solve the hardest problems, I need to not be the one that's solving all of them. So sometimes it's doing more work, right? But instead finding opportunities to highlight different people in the organization where they are or aren't on my team, and then spending more time coaching in the background, right? To help them grow the skill set that they can go do bigger things, which also frees me up to work on more projects as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If I want to solve the hardest problem, I can't solve all the problems. Is that it? That's a good quote. I like that. All right. So you're sort of touching on it there, this idea of giving back and being able to see other people grow. But why do you personally feel motivated to have that seat or that voice at the table?
I think part of it's out of interest. I always want to know why. Like when a decision's made, I want to understand why we made that decision. And I also believe, whenever there's a big problem, whenever I see people getting upset, which happens a lot when you're working on the big problems, generally I like to think it's just we haven't thought of the answer yet. And generally if people are upset, it's because, again, from their view, they think it's the wrong decision. And a lot of times people can't see it because no one explains to them or is showing them, yes, you are right. I see why you're saying that. But we have to also look at these three other things. Generally, when you bring people together and really hear what their challenges are, then you can help find that solution or that little sliver, right? As you navigate all the challenges, like, oh, this is the optimal path. Like there's thousand ways we can do this, and there's no really right or wrong, but there is maybe a better way. Usually people are frustrated we're not there yet. So I think probably why I'm most interested.
Yeah. And, I see you doing this in all the areas as a leader, with the clients, customers, and now even more so. And what I'm just going to predict the next path is being able to affect that change up even more. Having that executive presence, but also really showing leadership what's possible and being able to affect and manage change at the top. So as we close out here, any final words of wisdom for a woman who's looking to advance her career, thinking, wow, this is really hard. I wish I had the support and I'm not sure what to do next. What would you tell her?
I would say, growing your network is really important. I'm also a huge advocate of there's no such thing as a bad opportunity, even if it teaches you what you don't want to do. Right? It doesn't exist. So if you're feeling stuck, it's okay to try something new, but try to do it on purpose and try to really understand why you're stuck. So kind of from a quality mindset, we do this a lot. Well, they kind of call it a 5 why.
Okay.
So ask why again and again and again. Like, I'm unhappy. Why?
Why
are you unhappy? Well, I don't believe in the cause. Okay, why don't you believe in the cause? What specifically is it about the corporate strategy that you're disagreeing with? Is it an individual? And then you can tweak, because when you really understand what the real problem is, then you can go, well, maybe I'm not unhappy in my job. Maybe I'm frustrated with working with this individual. What could you do about that? Could you ask for help? Could you ask for someone that's seen you guys work together? And for me, it's always ultimate extreme accountability of I don't control anyone else or what happens. I can control me. So I try to always take it and go, okay, well, what could I do? And then you always have a choice. And knowing you always have a choice. You can find a new job. You can go back to school. You can take a new challenge. You can ask for help. You have unlimited possibilities as long as you look for them.
Brittney, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a valuable conversation and also such a gift to know you. I'm excited for this new human being that you're bringing into the world, and I can't wait to see what's next for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Go, I have a question for you. Do you know how close you are to your next promotion? Really? Not what your boss has told you, not what you even believe to be true, but have you actually taken the time to sit down, take an assessment, review the 5 categories that it takes to get promoted into senior executive leadership positions and decided where you fall in each category and given yourself a ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 of how close you are to getting your next promotion? Have you done this? Well, now's your chance. If that feels interesting to you and you're like, hey, I want to know exactly how close I might actually be or how far away you might be and what it's going to take to get you even closer, then I invite you to take my promotability quiz. This is a quiz that I put together with practical tips that actually tell you where you're lacking and where you're winning. What are the areas that you actually need to improve and not necessarily what your boss is telling you all the time so that you can take concrete steps towards landing that next promotion and changing the face of the leadership table. Go to yourpromotabilityscore.com to take your free assessment today.